Welcome to the County Manager's Report. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and with me, he's back. He's back again, is interim county manager Larry Werner. And Larry, is that going to be the official title, interim, or you're going to be here for quite a while? Maybe we should drop that.
Well, I think all county managers are interim to some extent. It's just how long that interim period is.
You made your point.
But the idea was that when I was here before, as truly as an interim, because it was kind of be a placeholder while they went through the selection process to hire a county manager. This time it's kind of like I'm here for my contract's for a year, and toward the end of that year, with the new county commissioners board being established after the November election, then we'll start the process for looking for whether you're an internal or external county manager, or however that works out. So it's probably still interim to way, but more long term.
I see.
It's a long-winded answer to a short question.
Or as I like to call you, county manager for life.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe county manager emeritus.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah, you're always there.
Well, I have to tell you, it's been fun, Lloyd, because it's a good group. The county's got excellent staff, and it's just been a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it. So I don't know, maybe it's some kind of a strange short in my wiring up here, but it is fun.
Well, as long as you enjoy it, it's good to have you back.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to talk about the March 17th meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. They met up at Lake Tahoe. And at that meeting, commissioners did adopt the 5-year Douglas County Transportation Plan. And could you give us some detail on what that plan includes?
As best I can, Lloyd, yes. Interesting, this was the plan was presented, and then what they did is looked at the projects they could fund with the extra 5-cent gas tax that got implemented by the county in February, I believe it was. So I did get a list of the projects that were identified, and I'll just kind of quickly run through the list. The funded projects through the bonding and through the 5-cent gas tax are Jacks Valley Road through the school to Alpine View Estates. Now, I had said in the running commentary with the Record Courier that was going to be a next year's project. I was a year off. They're bidding it this week, so I was a year. So it's going to happen much sooner than I thought it was.
It is a little rough patch of road there.
Oh boy, yeah, it's really bad. And then a stretch of Buckeye Road, Mottsville Lane, and those were the full reconstruction projects. Amount to about $4,700,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then there's general maintenance that's kind of gone beyond just the routine, but needs to be done, and that's Pioneer Trail. Some culverts around the county, Fredericksburg drainage, some signal system upgrades, some ADA compliance improvements. And then there was some equipment that needed to be purchased, portable message boards and some barrier rails, that sort of thing. So of the 5-year plan, which is a full list of projects, those are the ones that are probably of most interest because they are being funded and they're being scheduled to be started this year and next year. So.
Very good. And there was also some discussion in that about bonding. That was something new, right?
Correct. Yeah, we're able to do these because we can take that nickel and bond it.
I see.
Otherwise, you try to gather the money as you go, and in some cases, it just kind of can't keep up with itself. So this way we can bond it, we can get these roads paid for, and then we use the nickel to pay the bonds back. So.
Okay, so that nickel gas tax winds up being a lot more money with the bonding.
Yes, and the other thing is once it's committed to bond, the fear that it would be reallocated to some other activity goes away because it is now committed to pay these bonds, and the bonds are committed to the roads. So that really ties up that nickel just as the county commissioners intended it should. So.
Well, very good.
Yeah.
So we're making some progress in that area.
Very good. Yes, we are. Yep.
Okay, also at the meeting, commissioners heard an update on the process to secure passage of the Douglas County Conservation Bill in Congress. And how are things moving along? I know what you're going to say. Slowly. But
well, I guess there is progress. I mean, we had an update, and I think we had received a notice that Congressman Amodei had actually introduced an amended version of the bill, HR 925, to kind of identify and correct those things that they knew were going to be corrected in the Senate. So the idea was to try to speed this up by maybe having both bills say the same thing. And that's kind of where it sits, and that was as of 2 weeks ago. So things are moving. So looks good.
But still really no real deadline. I mean, we just don't know. Someday we'll get the phone call.
And I think it's one of these things that's not necessarily the merits of the bill, but is it kind of become part of the chip trading process, I'll give you that for these things, and because I think all in all, there's really not a lot of opposition to doing this. It's just getting it through Congress.
Right. And that has become a very difficult task in recent history. Also, commissioners directed Douglas County Clerk to advertise for people to write pros and con arguments for the potential general election ballot questions. What kind of questions are we looking at, possibly?
This one was specifically related to the gas revenue indexing, the gas tax indexing. So we're waiting for the actual wording of the question to come down from NACO, so that all the counties throughout the state are basically using the same question, so we can have the same what pros and cons issues. But what Treasurer Lewis has done is to actually start the process to select committees, and I think she's putting notice out here shortly that anybody interested being on this committee for write the pro arguments or the negative arguments, to let her know, and then she'll go through those and then present her recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. Once the committees get established, then they will be handed the question, and basically they can sit down now and write the pro and con arguments on the question. So I think that those folks probably will be nominated at the April 7th meeting. I'm kind of hesitating here because I'm not sure exactly what it is going to be at the April 7th meeting, sorry. But they will present the potential committees at that point.
Are there liable to be any other questions?
There's one other question that will be on the ballot from the county, and that's the school tax, the 1/4% sales tax for school improvements. And that one is going to be presented to the county commissioners on April 7th as well, but it's strictly an informational item. The law says that it will be placed on the ballot, but it shall be presented to the county commissioners for discussion, but there's no action on it. So even though the county commissioners will have a hearing on this, there's no direction from them to do other than what the law says, and that's to place it on the ballot. So then that following 2 meetings, I think, will be additional committees formed to do the pros and cons on that question. So there's more to come on the balloting.
Yeah, I see that on the horizon, as it were.
Yes.
Also, commissioners approved the appointment of a Minden resident to serve on the Minden Town Board. There is a recent vacancy there, with Charlie Condren leaving.
Correct. And Glenn Radke was appointed. Glenn is an employee of the county. He's a very valued employee, and I think he'd be a great asset for the town of Minden, so we're excited for him.
And he got appointed, and then he goes right up for election. That's cruel.
Yeah, yes. That's right. He has no breathing room, does he?
None.
So
none whatsoever.
That's interesting. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see him knocking on doors in Minden, that's for sure. That meeting at Lake Tahoe also contained commissioners hearing a presentation on the services provided here in Douglas County by the Food Bank of Northern Nevada. I guess that's kind of obvious. They support our local food closet, I guess.
Correct. And I believe they do they support the Backpack Buddies, and there's several. And I wish I had a list that Shane Piccini, I believe, is the person that made the representation on behalf of the Food Bank of Northern Nevada, because he went through a litany of organizations that are involved in trying to get food to people that need it. And I remembered a couple of them, but I went back to try to listen to the hearing, and I didn't get it all picked up. But he presented some very enlightening information about how many meals are served within Douglas County. But I guess it's also enlightening to find out that Douglas County is probably better off than a lot of counties. And looking at the statewide average on the number of school children that require free and reduced lunches, I guess it is, and based on your economic condition and living condition stuff, you qualify for that. And it's a staggering number. But Douglas County is much less than others. And I think the only one I can remember, I think, was like Carson City, was like 54% of the children going to school qualify for free and reduced lunches. And in Douglas County, I think it was, I can't guess, it was less than that, but I can't remember what the number was. But it was a very interesting presentation, the amount of meals being served, and like I say, for the life of me, I can't put my hand on the numbers.
Okay. Commissioners also approved an agreement and agreed to distribute up to $99,000 in state catalyst funds to Bentley Heritage. And state catalyst funds, can you give us a little background on that?
But essentially, it's a program where if a new business is coming to the area, and based on the number of employees that they'll bring into the area and the average wage that they pay these employees, then they can qualify for some funding that helps them offset their building costs and that sort of thing. And it's a formula that's used, and in this case, it was the Bentley Heritage LLC that's talking about the distillery, and they're talking about creating 12 new jobs and about $40 on average per hour. So,
wow.
And it works on a reimbursement basis that if they actually create the jobs and the jobs are sustainable, then they qualify for a payment to reimburse some of their infrastructure improvements that they've made. And that's done, I think this one's done over a 2-year period, and I think they were looking at about 6 per year, depending on or if they create 6 jobs and they get about half the money per year, so 45-some thousand each year for 2 years based on job creation.
Well, that is an extensive project that Bentley is doing there, so I guess it all helps.
Yes, yes. And sometimes it's just enough to kind of put it over the edge to make it a little more economically feasible for somebody. And if it creates jobs for us and it's a good kind of industry that we like, it's a good program.
Well, there aren't a lot of $40 an hour jobs around.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Also at that meeting, commissioners approved contracts with CH2M Hill for engineering design and also Keller Associates for engineering and quality assurance for the North Valley wastewater treatment plant improvements.
Correct. The wastewater treatment plant was reaching its hydraulic capacity, and there needed to be expansion to allow for future growth in the area, both residential and potentially if there is commercial or industrial that would be in the area. And additionally, the plants and the infrastructure today throughout most of the country is controlled and managed by what they call system collection and data analysis instruments that are used to try to manage these facilities to a high efficiency. And so the first part of the contract went to CH2M Hill to do the design of the actual wastewater treatment plant itself. And then the second part of that was to look at updating what they call the SCADA instrumentation, so that as the plant gets expanded, the system and instrumentation also gets expanded as well. The second contract with Keller is to basically review what CH2M Hill is doing to make sure we're using the most current technology for this type of treatment plant, the most current technology for the SCADA systems. And then, if needed, they can also help do the construction management of the project as it goes along. So this is part of a plan that I believe was approved by the county some time ago. I think there was I think the whole expansion is about $7.5 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. Maybe, I'm sorry, it's about $10 million.
Wow.
And so there's getting the design work done on that.
Okay, very good. Well, that pretty well covers the meeting of the 17th. Is there any details on what may be coming before the Board of Commissioners during the month of April? We heard about the school bond.
It's the ballot questions and the school bond, and I'll be making a report. My staff will be making a report to the county commissioners on the task force recommendation to the county manager on the roads and flooding. I don't remember the exact terminology, but it's kind of, that task force had met, it had been appointed by the previous county manager. They'd worked through what they saw were potential improvements, how to approach the improvements, some planning issues, and then also how to look at maybe funding some of these. So that was presented to the board in a kind of a workshop by Eric Nelson, our county engineer. And there were some discussions that went on there, and we've kind of folded those in, and we'll be making now a final report to the board and asking for either the acceptance of the report and give us direction, or exactly what they want us to do at this point. I envision that after the April 7th meeting that we'll be coming back with an actual detailed plan that if talks about funding, where we might get sources of funding, and really get down into the weeds on, okay, now how do we make this work? So that will follow after this April 7th meeting.
So did this group really come up with some solid solutions to some of these problems? Like the flooding in particular is a big one.
Yeah, I think it became more of a solution of how do you approach it, because it's a
very
big
big.
issue. Yeah, and it's not uniform across the county, so it has to be what might be a good solution for one area may not even be appropriate in another area. And so I think that they went back and looked at what are the county's policies on dealing with this. Interestingly enough, they found that the last master plan update had identified really regional approaches on how you should look at stormwater and flooding and that sort of thing. That they reviewed those and basically reapproved, saying, hey, these are good policies. And then they went to the step further, looking at potential funding sources. But to recommend exactly specific projects, we're not there yet, although Eric Nelson, the county engineer, has identified some projects that may be cost-effective using some USDA funding, EDA funding, and some other sources of funding to get some projects going. But they're not big, they're not massive, but they will help. I suspect that what we're really going to be looking for is trying to do detailed planning in the different water basins so that we can figure out what works where and how do we do that. So it's kind of down the road.
All right. Well, Larry, I want to thank you for all the information you shared here on the county manager's report. Interim County Manager Larry Werner, maybe we'll drop the interim after a few more months. And we do appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Lloyd. I appreciate it.
Okay, and I'm Lloyd Higuera for County Manager Larry Werner on the County Manager's Report.